What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Rise Podcast. Today's a fun one because we are actually guests on some of our good friends' show, and we're just running it back on this. They just launched it last week. We're just cross-posting it on our show, so shout out to the Socality crew.
Yes, we love
Scott,
them.
Jonathan, Davey, Chloe, thank you guys so much for having us on the show. This is a great conversation about pricing, so if you are interested at all in learning how to price your work better, how pricing works, value-based pricing, this is a great conversation. So we are about to jump on into this, but before we do that, we got some exciting
We want to
news.
shout out some round 13 wins from this last week. For people that are in our 6-week Creative Rise Mastermind, we got Jason. Shout out Jason. He said, I had a late lunch with a client and collected $2,000 for our usually quarter retainer package. What's cool is that he used Venmo Tap to pay, which is amazing.
Shout out to Venmo for business. There you go.
Shout out to Paolo. He secured a $2,500 monthly contract with a youth soccer team. Shout out to Angelique. She had a $2,250 per month retainer client for 12 months. It's a TikTok add-on, which is super cool. Shout out to Elena. She got an $1,800 a month retainer with a winery. We've got Claire. She booked a $900 grad shoot for May, which is amazing. Claire. Rick got a $1,250 deal for 1 reel and 10 photos, which is so cool. Raquel got a $5,200 deal for shooting a hotel in Tennessee, which is amazing. We've got Amber. She got a $3,000 basically mother's shoot. So she does the maternity, she does the birth, she does all these cool things, packages that for $3,000, which is amazing.
So cool. She's
Laura,
an amazing photographer too.
She is incredible. Laura and Brian, they had a $2,200 deal for a 30-second hype reel, which is amazing. So many cool wins from this week. Incredible people.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
It's so fun to celebrate.
That's a wrap on week 4. We're now jumping into week 5 of the 6-week Creative Rise Mastermind. Round 13 is killing it.
Yeah.
If you need to be around more creatives who are pricing their work better, actually making it happen, growing their businesses, well, you should listen to this whole episode of the podcast because we talk a lot about those things. So glad you're here. Shout out to the whole Socality crew. Here is our interview with them. Here we go.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the show.
Oh, we are so glad to be here.
We feel welcomed. So glad to be here. We love you guys. This is exciting.
It's good to have you guys back.
Anytime we are with you guys, we're having a great time. So thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
100%.
For this one, we just felt like we had to run it back on the virtual connection.
Absolutely.
Because
love it.
we want to talk about pricing today. And Chloe and I have been chatting just about this year and where we want to go with the show. And we'll be spending a lot of time just with these monthly episodes on big questions and challenges and problems that creators have, and bringing in people from the community to speak to that, both kind of close at home, kind of where we are based in Calgary, and then when we can, with folks like you guys who are a little ways away. So we thought, we put down, I think it was in our notes, we're like, oh, let's call it the pricing puzzle or something to do with pricing. And
pricing is very much a puzzle. So
it's a puzzle.
It's
with 1,500 pieces.
Yeah, and they're all
not the easy one.
They're all the same color. And so you're like, where does this go? Where does this go?
Yeah.
The expert, the big ones you do at Christmas with your family.
Yes.
Yeah. So
let's
dive in. But I think the way we want to structure today is really make it pretty practical and lean on you guys' wisdom, both through all the masterminds and all of the creators that you guys have mentored and worked with, and pull a lot of practical examples so that, if you're listening and you are, maybe there's some of this that you're like, I feel like I've got this piece down, but I'm trying to move into something else. We're going to touch on commercial, brand work, service-based stuff like weddings and portrait shoots and stuff like that. And then even getting into social media and that landscape right now, and tap Chloe's wisdom and some of the stuff you've been experiencing, just being active in that space. So I think just in general, to kick us off, anything, Joey and Christy, this year that you guys are seeing change, I feel like you guys, first off, I just want to plug your show and your podcast. It's anybody wanting to kind of double down and dig into a lot of stuff, just go back and binge Joey and Christy's podcast, because they've got so much good information if you're trying to level up your business. But just, here and now this year, any kind of changes that you're seeing in the industry in general, kind of to kick us off, and then we'll go into practical.
This isn't necessarily related to pricing, but I think it ties in if you really look into it. But a big trend we were talking with some creators about the other day that we are not only seeing in a lot of the creative businesses that we, as you said, get to help mentor and guide through Creative Rise, but even just in our own businesses. And just a disclaimer for everybody listening, we do run our own businesses. We have for the past decade. Christy's started as a wedding photographer, branched into brands about 5 years ago as well. And then I've been in the brand space also as a photographer, filmmaker, and then a brand strategist for a decade as well. So what we're going to be talking about today is not just from like a mentor perspective, but very much still an active perspective of us running our own businesses. We had the biggest month we ever had in a decade for each of us in our businesses in January, which is awesome. Wow. So we're very much still in it, still doing it. And one of the shifts that we're noticing is that brands are so much more focused on working and partnering with creatives that are so multifaceted. Like the days of being a really good photographer and that is all you do it's still a possibility, but brands are so much more focused on, people like you two who can both do photo video. You also have a platform of your own, you can even do a podcast, creatives that have so many different variations of creative problem solving skills, whether you're stacking the skill stack of like, I'm a great photographer, I'm a good filmmaker, I'm a great writer, people that are even getting into like more quote unquote like content creation. Chloe, you're great at this, right? Like more like typical like UGC, like social style stuff. So I think that's one of the biggest trends we're seeing right now, not only in our own businesses, but in a lot of other businesses, is that the creators who are stacking services doesn't mean you got to become the best in the world at all of them. It just means you need to be able to be well versed in them. Creators who can handle multiple different creative outlets on one project are getting a lot of the business right now because brands aren't wanting to hire 7-8 person teams that are $40,000 budgets. They'd rather give a $20,000 budget or a $15,000 budget to one or two people to handle a bunch of stuff. So that's a big trend we're noticing in our own businesses and in a lot of the creatives that we're getting to work with right now. And that's definitely stuck out over the last year of 2024 and then the first couple months of 2025. That's been something we've been noticing for sure. Yeah.
And I think also noticing that people are looking to work with people on a consistent basis and actually willing to put budget behind it. Like I think more now than ever, and I think a lot of people went through a season where they felt like, oh, no one has budget, businesses are discouraged on spending money. We're seeing a trend going up in that people are wanting to hire people. People are looking to outsource. People are looking to find those, solopreneurs that they can bring on to have like a monthly relationship with and to be able to keep that consistency. And I think that that's a really cool way to stack and build your business. So if you're sitting here going, oh, no, like no one's hiring, no one's going to say yes to my pitches, no one's going to, want to work with me, I would shift your mindset a little bit because we're seeing a trend that a lot of people are getting really great deals and consistent deals right now if you tap into solving real problems and actually, being confident about your pricing, which is cool.
Yeah.
So we want to kind of like in the pricing puzzle conversation, hit on some of these different categories. Where do you guys want to start? Is there a, we're going to talk commercial, we're going to talk brand and like some of that stuff, service, social. Does it feel like there's a place that makes sense? Like if we're like looking at that progression, like where most people start?
Yeah. I think if we look at pricing as a puzzle, we got all the puzzle pieces. We can talk commercial, we can talk licensing, we can talk smaller brands, weddings, we can talk couples, we can talk social. But I think we should zoom out a little bit and look at like what should the puzzle actually look like when all the puzzle pieces are together. What's the theory that actually builds the puzzle? Because a lot of creatives get theory wrong, and because they get pricing theory wrong, pricing from a very non-theory perspective, like very tactical and tangible pricing becomes very difficult. And when pricing is difficult for creatives, you undercharge, you don't sell because you're scared to actually have to slide a price in front of a client and potentially get rejected. You just walk through your business with a lot less confidence, and it shows, right? How you view yourself, how you view your offers, your pricing, and everything is very obvious to people when they're doing business with you. And so understanding pricing theory and getting a good head on your shoulders in terms of how confident you are in pricing a project is a very important thing. So you guys want to start with pricing theory?
Yeah, let's start there and then go into putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, obviously chime in. You guys have got a lot of insight on pricing theory, but I think the first thing that Christy and I always encourage people to consider, and this is a massive reason that Christy and I's businesses have continued to grow is that we are fully sold out on pricing our work based off of the value of the solutions we're giving, not off of the time input that we put into things. So when I started my business in 2014, the only way I knew how to price was trying to figure out, oh yeah, I've heard these day rates thrown around or these hourly rates. And that is what probably the primary 70, 80% of creatives use. So they use day rates, they use hourly rates. And well, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's the easiest way. It's the way that makes the most sense. It's the easiest puzzle piece to find. The problem with that is though, you miss out on a lot of value that you're creating for the clients you're working for. And in turn, additional value created is additional money you could be getting paid. And so pricing for your time is an issue because you'll always be able to outgive with value what you can give with your time. Yeah. And when you do get bogged down only ever giving, pricing projects based on your time, it just becomes a hamster wheel where we love to talk about this, but you're going to get compared more, right? They're going to take your hourly rate, your day rate, your half day rate, and they're going to go to somebody else and they're going to start comparing you based off your time. We sit on the other side of that going, time's actually an asset. How quickly can we get a project done? The faster you get something done, you should get paid more, right? Like people pay for speed. The faster you can solve a problem for a business or even for a couple, the faster you can turn around a wedding film or the faster you can turn around a couple shoot, like you should be able to charge more for that if you can do a 72-hour turnaround rather than a 4-month turnaround, right? Like this is obvious stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think the first piece of pricing theory is that charging for your time limits you. You should be focused on figuring out how to charge for your value. Now, the caveat with that is it's obviously more gray and there's some additional theory to get into that.
It's the sky part of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's the sky part that all looks the same. You're like, wait a second here. Wait a second. Wait, now there's a waterfall in this part. Wait, which part's the sky? Which part's the waterfall? So we can get into that as much as you guys want. But when creatives make the shift from I'm simply showing up and someone's renting my time, when they shift to, no, I'm showing up and I'm actually being brought on as an expert that's solving a problem and I'm charging for the value of that problem I'm solving or that opportunity I'm creating for this company, client, couple, whatever it might be, that's where creatives really start to one, get more confident, get super stoked about what they're charging. And number 3, that's where they start to grow their businesses. Christy and I did $108,000 in the month of January and the first 4 days of February, our biggest month ever. And that has nothing to do with any other business we run. It was strictly in our content agency. So that was an engagement shoot. That was 4 photo video campaigns. That was a single video campaign. And then that was a brand strategy rebrand deal that we did with a company. So if we had priced for our time, we actually did a podcast episode on this. If we had priced for our time through the month of January through the first 4 days of February, we would have only made about $60,000, arguing a rate of about $250 an hour, which is a pretty high hourly rate. Yeah. And $60,000 is still a great month, but we had almost doubled that, making $108,000 a month because we were not charging for our time. We were charging for our value. So just to give some people some comparisons and whether that's relatable to you or whether that's not relatable, depending on how far on your journey in growing your business you are, hopefully that just exposes like why charging for your value is so much more important. So, yeah.
So from there, where would you go then? So it's like, okay, foundational, absolutely. I think that's a big mindset shift for a lot of people. But then it still gets hard when you get to the nitty gritty of like, how do I do that? Yep. Right? Like, what does that look like in those different, but maybe, I think what's cool is you guys just have a few examples from that month. Like you just listed off like a few different types of projects and some of those touch on like tap into different categories that we're talking about here.
Yeah, we can totally dive into some of the examples from our month. So a couple things about like switching from an hourly, from a day rate, from all of those things is moving into more of a package oriented offer. So we always say offer more than one option, because if you only offer one option, which is a day rate, which is an hourly rate, or just one package, the human brain naturally wants to compare, so they'll go take your one option and go and compare it with somebody else, right? Whereas if you give someone 2 options, that fulfills the urge to compare, but they're comparing between the 2 of yours, so you automatically win.
You're fighting against yourself.
Which is great. So that's something that we do. So every time we offer anything to a client, we're always giving at least 2 options. So in the brand space, we like to offer 2 options. In the wedding space, we tend to offer 3. That just works what's best for us. So
Pretty industry standard too.
yeah.
Or
So how the wedding side worked from that, we did a proposal and engagement shoot kind of combo. And originally they had just asked for coverage of a proposal shoot. So like, hey, we just want some photos for this. So when a client asks you for something, you obviously give them an offer that is what they asked, but we always like to bump it up and potentially offer them more value, aka higher budget. So with this one, we were like, okay, we can do just a proposal shoot, absolutely. But let's include offering video coverage of the proposal as well, because everybody wants that, right? I wish that we had that.
Well,
we
we're
didn't get
thinking
that.
like absolutely the bride's gonna want that. You
Absolutely.
know, the soon to be groom was reaching
We're
out
like,
to us. It's
groom,
like,
she
bro,
will
she's
want
gonna
this.
want this, you know? Like
We know you can't consult her about this, but she will want this.
So this is, and right before you continue the story, this is one of the biggest things about value-based pricing is that you are switching from someone who's reactive, who's going, yeah, John, you tell me what you want. I'll just show up and here's my day rate. What do you want me to shoot? Switching to a value-based pricing model, you've got to put on the hat of, I am actually an expert in this. Let me actually consult with you and give you options on what I recommend is going to be the most valuable for you. So
being the expert.
that is another reason why creatives struggle with value-based pricing is because they don't know what actually is valuable. So you've got to do a little bit of the work and figure out, and obviously it's a muscle. The longer you build this career, you're going to understand what is valuable to a bride, to a groom, to a couple getting engaged, to a brand, to somebody running, some brand social accounts that wants to get you to do something, to an agency. But switching to value-based pricing is you are putting on the hat of a doctor going, okay, you've come to me with a request. As a doctor, my role is to define what the opportunity here is for you or what's broken and what's wrong. Yeah. And I'm going to lay out a couple different options on like what could be the best opportunities for you moving forward. So that's, as you continue the story, that's just a big theory thing that people need to understand, that the more you can understand how to do that, the more you're able to kind of get into the swing of value-based pricing. So.
Yeah, so we offered that, and then we were also talking, and we're like, hey, you guys flew all the way out from Miami to California for this proposal shoot to be around family. Like, Napa's only an hour away. Do you want to do an engagement shoot in Napa? And it was like, hey, do you want photo and video coverage for that? So we offered two different options. They ended up picking the higher package and going with the photo video option of both the proposal and the Napa shoot, which what would have probably been more like $1,000 package of what they like technically asked for, we ended up selling them on a $5,000 package. So that is like quite the increase over 4,000. Yeah. What the increase of what they asked for versus what we offered them. So always thinking like, okay, they asked for this, let me give them that option, but let me also give them another option that, in my opinion, is going to be a better overall experience for them, and then a higher ticket price point for you.
And just to get into that a little bit deeper, people are hearing $4,000 for a proposal. Like most people would charge $350 to $800 for a proposal. Yeah. One of the things that Christy does so well is Christy's like, she's producing it. Like she's giving value. Christy's like, here's the locations we're going to go to. Here's an outfit, guide on what you should consider. I mean, we're talking to guys, right, who are trying to propose. Like we need guidance, in this thing, right?
Guidance
so
on setting up the proposal.
Exactly. It's like, here's some ideas
stuff
for like the actual proposal. Here's some concepts for outfits you should consider. Like here's some strategy around what's going to happen when. Like Christy's leading him and leading the couple through this. So there is massive value there for that, right? Christy's not just showing up and saying, great, where do you want me to hide as I shoot your proposal, right? So for anyone who's thinking, well, wow, $4,000 for a proposal, like how is that possible? It's possible because of the value stack there. Like Christy is taking over so many of the other smaller or adjacent problems that come beside just photographing a proposal. Because of that, not only is she able to create an amazing experience that ended up just being a beautiful moment / experience for the couple, but in turn, more value is bigger paychecks, right?
Yeah.
I'll maybe put a pin in this and we can come back to it. I think one breakdown for a lot of people, and I know, like, I'll just admit I still struggle with this sometimes. It's like, I know I'm good at what I do, but I can feel so guilty sometimes. Like I think of like charging a high rate to somebody, even if I don't know, like it's a weird mentality thing, but I'd love to kind of jump back into that. Like after we hit on some examples and you mentioned like building that muscle. Because I do think it's a muscle separate from your technical skill. Cause I've also met people and seen people who I would argue have the muscle, like that pricing muscle, that have the ability to ask and to do that well. And their actual product or what they do isn't that great, but but people pay them, and they like have happy customers. People are paying a high price. And the flip side, I know lots of people, and I've been there myself, that are like proficient at what they do and are asking of like very little, in return. So, but just staying on the example, we'll come back to that, but staying on the examples, I guess just any last things to add to the service-based stuff, and then feel free to jump into, say, the commercial or the brand side.
Yeah, so in the wedding side, I think there's a few strategies for shooting, not only just like proposals, engagement shoots, couple sessions, but also weddings in general. Something that we love to just tell people is price anchoring is one of the biggest things you can do to help guide people towards what package you want them to choose. So a lot of people get frustrated because they're like, okay, I have higher prices, but everyone always goes with my lowest package. Like everyone just always chooses that one. I don't know how to get people to choose higher packages. And we like to, first of all, we like to get rid of super low offers. So like even yesterday, we're having a 6-week mastermind right now, and we were on a call with a girl who has incredible work, but she's in her first year, so she's still figuring out the whole pricing thing. And she had $175 30-minute couple session offer. And then she had, $350, and then it goes up. And we were like, you got to get rid of that offer, because if someone's like, oh, well, I can get 30 minutes out of her for $175, of course I'm going to go with that, when they probably would have been willing to pay that middle offer and have been actually probably more excited about the outcome of the middle offer than the lowest offer. So we were like, first of all, just sometimes cutting the low offers is a really great thing to do for your business, and just even for your mentality of what you're charging and what your time feels like it's worth and the value that you're giving. So we always say cut those super low offers. And then what price anchoring looks like, it's pricing with psychology in mind. So when you have wedding packages, you got 3 packages usually. Everyone usually always is like, oh, this is my 6-hour package, my 8-hour package, and my 10-hour package. And there's nothing wrong with putting hours in your packages.
We recommend that.
We recommend it because it's very much like a time-based event, being in a wedding. But instead of leading with like, oh, like you get 8 hours of coverage, we always say put up to whatever hour. So like up to this. So if someone's like, well, I need you for 4, it's like, oh, great. Then you can do the up to 6-hour package, right? This one's meant for you. But how we talk about price anchoring and how do we point people towards a middle package, which is what you always want to book. So you want to base your pricing off of like, I want to make my middle package the one that I always want to book. You make your first 2 packages really close in price, and you make them actually like semi-similar, but the middle package has everything they want. So the lowest package shouldn't have everything they want, right? Like most, couples usually want 8 hours of coverage. So maybe like up to 6 hours and then up to 8 hours. The 8-hour package has everything that they want, and then the lower package doesn't have everything that they're requesting. You make it close in price so that they go, ooh, for only this much more, I can get everything that I want in that middle package, and we wouldn't get everything we wanted in the lower package, and it's not that much of a price difference. You want to make those close in price, and then your third package, you want to crank that puppy up. So you want to make it not like, oh, it's only like $200 more. Like we say, like, make that more of a moonshot package. One, so that if someone books it, you're laughing and you're like, awesome. Like, this is amazing.
Well, there is more value in that too.
And there is more value.
The price. Like, there's obviously more value.
No, there's more value in the highest package, but it's stuff that they're not really requesting and maybe they don't actually quote unquote need. But the price anchor happens when they look at that price and they go, oh my gosh, that's like out of our budget. But internally, they're also like, whoa, this person charges that much for a wedding. They're really good, right? Like that just even happens mentally, but then it makes your middle package look cheaper. Anytime you give a big price and then you give a little price, the little price looks way less if you have a big price in front of it.
It's the reason why when you walk into a high-end car dealership, all their best, most expensive cars are right inside the front door on the floor. And it's like you walk in, you're like, whoa, here's a Porsche for $400,000. Yeah, yes. I'll go look at the ones that are used for $26,000 in the very back of the lot, and I'll still feel stoked, right?
So cost effective.
They're price anchoring you. So
so price anchoring is a big deal in the wedding industry.
And just an example of those packages, that might be like, oh, the price anchor, though, is just right off the top of my head. We actually have a free calculator on creativerise.com that will do this for you.
Yes.
But we could also throw that in the show notes if you guys want. It's just creativerise.com /pricing calculator, totally free thing. helps a lot of people. But a good example of this would be like, oh, my up to 6 hour package would be like $3,000. My 8 hour package would be like $3,350. So only going up like $350. And then my my 10 hour package might be like $5,250. So it's like going up like, almost $2,000 or $2,000.
Or like
right?
4,500, 5,000, 7,000. Like,
exactly. Right. And you can see how that would scale as somebody's prices do go up. But that's somewhat what that looks like in the wedding space. Let's chat like kind of on the commercial side, how value-based pricing works on the commercial side. So value-based pricing on the commercial side is similar to what we were talking about earlier, where you are trying to hedge against the things that are quite normal. So when someone says to me, hey, what's your day rate? It's a very normal in the creative industry, especially in the commercial side. My response would be, well, I don't have a day rate, but I price all my projects based on the value and the deliverables of what you're getting, on how quickly we're turning things around. And I often say, I don't want to drag a project out simply to make more money off you guys. I'd way rather deliver as soon as I can, so you guys can start implementing what we're giving you, the content, and you guys can start, making an ROI off that. So why don't we jump on a call, or let's continue the conversation. Here's a couple questions. I'd love to know more about what this project entails and what we could do to maximize this project so you guys get the best return. So example, if someone comes to me and says, hey, we've got a project, it's a campaign. It's a photo video campaign. We're a beverage company, and we sell drinks to grocery stores, or we sell drinks to whatever. We want to get more shots for our socials, for our emails, all that stuff. We'd be like, great, that's awesome. We'd first get into, right off the bat, what products are we trying to shoot? With those products, how many deliverables are you needing for those products? And like, what's the placements? And when I say placements, a lot of people think, oh, he's trying to get into licensing. Like, a lot of creatives will hear me say that and be like, oh, here we go, like the licensing conversation. I'm actually not a fan of the licensing conversation. Happy to have it, but we can get into that later on. But so I'd ask placements, and the reason why I often ask about placements is I want to know where they're using this content. And the reason why I want to know where they're using it is so that I, as the photographer or as the filmmaker, can understand how do I maximize these deliverables to be as perfect to be utilized in multiple different places for this platform or for this company. So if someone comes to us and they're like, hey, yeah, we want a photo campaign, a very typical campaign for Christy and I on like a quarterly basis or even maybe a monthly basis would be, like a 30 image campaign with like 4 reels, 4 short form pieces. And these can all go on YouTube, they can go on Instagram. All the photos can live through their email marketing, can live through their socials, website stuff, product pages, paid ads. So I would try and figure out deliverables. I would try and figure out where these placements are so I can understand really what they're going after. And then what I'm then going to figure out is a couple questions like this. Like, if you could snap your fingers and this went perfectly and you had all the best content you could dream of, like, what would that do for the business? What would that be doing? Oh my gosh, it'd be amazing if our email marketing calendar was full of content, our social calendar. I'm like, great, I'm gathering all this information, right? How quickly do we need to turn this around? Like, is this something where you're like, we have a 3-month, timeline on this? Or is this like 2 weeks from now, we need the whole shoot done? And that happens a lot with Christy and I, where we'll get called from our clients and they'll be like, hey, we need you to turn something around 2 weeks.
That just happened yesterday.
Yeah, it just happened yesterday. So
Chloe,
point is, when you think about value-based, exactly, right? So when you think about value-based pricing, value-based pricing, if you are able to help somebody create a really high-quality product, that's a great thing. You should be able to charge that. That's increasing the value. You should be able to charge more for that. If you're able to create a really good product that has a lot of utility for it. So example, it's got a lot of different formats. Like, you can use it across email, across web, across social, maybe across print, across digital. You can charge for that, right? Creatives who only give like vertical photos from a photo campaign, there's nothing horizontal. Any normal brand is going to look at that and go, maybe beautiful photos, but like, we can't use this in all the places we wish. That is inherently less value. So thinking about placements, like, how do I increase all the format options of everything we're shooting, whether it's photo and video? And then another one that increases the value when you're thinking about value-based pricing is, how quickly can I turn this around? Like, if I can do this, if we can shoot a campaign and get it fully turned around in under like 72 hours, which is typically Christy and I's goal, that is so much more valuable to a company than a lot of these creatives who are like, yeah, it's in the backlog, we'll get to it when we get to you. There's 8 brands ahead of you in the queue, and they don't think anything of that. Where Christy and I are going over here going, no, I could probably charge an extra $2,000, $3,000, $500, whatever it is on the project, if I can turn this around in 72 hours, because the quicker they get the content, the more likely they are to start building an ROI quicker. And
Totally.
everybody knows that speed is valuable on all of these business industries that we work with clients in. So yeah, those are a couple things. It's like, what's the quality, of the work? What's the utility? Utility directly affects ROI, how people are going to get a return on the investment of what they've paid you. And then how quickly you can get it turned around to them, the speed at which you can turn it around to them, right? And then the last thing of value-based pricing that we often think about is, what are we actually solving for them? So of course, we're solving the problem of shooting the images and shooting the videos or editing the videos. But as we were talking about earlier, like, we take on a massive role of producing. Like, when somebody gives us a budget, whether it's a $15,000, $12,000, $20,000 budget for a campaign, a lot of creatives often ask us, they're like, how are you getting paid 20 grand for 20 images and 4 reels? Well, it's because we aren't just doing 20 images and 4 reels. We're hiring all the models. We're scouting locations. We're getting permits.
Producing
we're producing
the full
campaign,
Yeah.
mood boards, shot lists, all the client communication. Like, we are handling so many things that the clients are able to then just kind of sit back and be like, yo, Joey and Christy got this. And then as we do it over time, they end up building a lot of trust in that. And so they're going to reward that trust with more budget, right? Now, a lot of people hear me say those things and they go, but wait, I'm doing those too. Why am I not getting paid for that? And the reason there is because you're probably not communicating you're doing those things. And this is the biggest thing about value-based pricing, or just increasing your pricing overall, is, and John, you were touching on this earlier, like, why are there creatives that are less talented? They are, but they sell more deals, they get more deals, they have happy clients. It's because they've really figured out the model of how they communicate the value that they are bringing a brand. And pricing is a direct reflection of not only the value you're creating, but even more important, the value you're able to communicate you're going to create. If you can create the best photo campaign or video campaign in the world, but you don't know how to explain that to the client and sell that, you're never going to be able to price for it. So it's really building that muscle we talked about. And this is why value-based pricing is often not the pricing model a lot of creatives opt for, because it is more gray. It does take time. I've been doing this for a decade. It's still challenging sometimes when I have to price something. Like, hear me say that. Christy and I both still struggle with this in certain times, right? Like, it's always a muscle. It's like when you go to the gym, you get stronger, but you're lifting more weight. It's still challenging, right? So yeah, those are a couple aspects of value-based pricing on a little bit more of like a tangible, tactical level. Like, you got to figure out where the value that you're bringing in those categories is, and then as you start to figure those things out, you can start to see how you can start pitching bigger budgets, and people will respond with like, oh yeah, that makes more sense. You're not just showing up on set to shoot. You're coming prepared. You're hiring the models. You have shot lists. You've had pre-shoot or pre-campaign discovery calls and strategy calls where you are walking through what are all the placements, how many header images do we need for web, how many do we need for email marketing, what do we want shot vertically versus horizontal on the shot list. Like, going through that is what is going to make you more valuable.
I feel like more often than not, I'm now leading with more that I'm a producer and a photographer and videographer, right? Like, you're leading with the production side of things, because that's really where the value is. Like, my value is I work way harder before the shoot than I do even on the shoot or even in the editing chair, right? Like, before, you're coming up with, like, we use, softwares and things like that to communicate with our clients that every image has its own use purpose. It's not 30 images of a bunch of different angles, right?
Yeah, one location.
It's,
one
hey,
spot,
here's
one model,
4
one
different
product.
scenes. Each scene is going to have this shot list. It's going to be this use case. We're going to be doing this, this, and this. Like, we're breaking all that down to the client beforehand and getting all of that confirmed. And they're then looking at the 30 photos, not as just 30 photos that maybe they'll get like 4 use cases out of. It's like 30 use cases. And that just is more valuable to a brand. So whether you're doing that and you're frustrated because you're not maybe clearly communicating that to the client, I would say get used to really clearly communicating that, because that will really, really help when the budget conversation comes.
When it comes to invoices, like invoicing and budgeting, and actually like breaking that down in a like preliminary budget conversation to say, here's what this could look like. I've seen, even for us, both on the like Socality or in like commercial projects or other stuff like that, the more you actually get in the weeds, and again, I mean, a little to your point, Joy, it does take some work, but I've kind of done both, where it's like you just try to go, okay, I'll throw this all into kind of one lump sum and say, hey guys, here's the total lump sum for this. And it's actually interesting because that lump sum can be a big number, but it can be a hard to justify number if it's not clear, or you're just kind of like, yeah, and here's a little rundown of all the different things that you're getting in that. But when you actually like take a lot of these elements that you guys are talking about, and then go, okay, here's what I've actually run the time on, like what this takes. And and maybe I've put a rough rate on what a day of pre-production costs or what it's going to take. And to do this for you, it's going to take me X number of days, or maybe you guys can do it quicker, but it's like, that's what, using the value, it's like, that's what the value of this is. And I guess just to kind of wrap that up from you, what are some of those line items that you guys are consistently looking at, and then, are you like, cause I think it is such a it can be a start from scratch, but are there ways you're trying to speed that process up from a bit of a system standpoint? So it's like, have you kind of established, here's the variables that we're kind of pulling and rough values that we've attached, and then playing in that? I guess just speak to, and Chloe's same thing, if there's anything you want to add, but just speak to any of that you're doing to, I guess, make it less one-off each time, where you're not having to kind of start from the ground up.
The first thing I think I'll say is that I think the goal for everybody in their pricing is that you should be aiming to build pricing that is probably unique to every client, because every client that you work with, the scale of their need, problem, or size of the opportunity is going to look different. But at the same time, you should have a pretty rough ballpark on like where your clientele lands in, right? So it's like Christy and I know that like we won't really get our camera gear, get up out of the house, take a date off our calendar unless it's like a minimum of like a $5,000 project. And we obviously did not start there. That's been built. And, so the first thing I think to think about is like, you start kind of frameworking in your head, like, what do I need to make my minimum level of engagement, right? Which is really just asking a question like, what's the minimum that I'm willing to do a project for? And so when you start figuring out these numbers, you start to kind of, go, okay, now if I know that's kind of my minimum, now what's included in that? And then you can start to break those things down. We don't actually line item out stuff like every dollar. When we send over quotes to people, if they ask for that, we'd probably have a conversation about doing that, or maybe do it in a more conversation format. When I do send a quote, like example, like we had like one of the big, I'll use like the brand strategy example, like we're doing like full rebrand, web, UI, UX, like a bunch of stuff like that. I'm going to line item out a little bit more to break down each of those services. Cause like, obviously it's like a bigger deal. Like, those can go on to become like 6-figure projects. So they need to be line itemed out. But for like a brand shoot, like if we're doing like a $12,000, $15,000 brand campaign, we might line item out, here's the cost on our end. So in order for us to do all the things we're going to do, which I'll list in a second, it might be, $10,000. And then we need an additional $5,000 of budget for these line items, models, prop stylist, props, location permit.
More like a budget ceiling.
Yeah. We might we need like a budget ceiling of $5,000. Like we need that sandbox to play around in for expenses. And here's
we'll
some of the
do
things
everything to get it as
and
cost effective.
We're going to do our
possible.
job to make it as cheap as possible, but our fee is going to be $10,000. And inside of that $10,000 fee, things that we're often pulling from that our clients always get included. First and foremost, it's going to be a pre-campaign, at least a pre-campaign discovery call. Like if we don't know exactly what you're looking for, the content you exactly need, like again, go back to that snap your finger question. If you could snap your fingers and this campaign went perfectly, what would be in front of you? If you're scrolling on a computer screen, what do the images look like? What formats are they in? How many images are there, right? So in a pre-discovery call, we're trying to figure out all that stuff. And that also helps with the shoot. It sucks showing up to shoot being like, I actually have no idea what the client wants, It's so much better when you do these pre-discovery calls. So on that discovery call, though, we're figuring out deliverables. We're figuring out exactly what formats the deliverables need to be in, what placements they're going to be in, so we know exactly how to shoot them. We're figuring out do's and don'ts. So like we'll lead them through a strategy call where it's like, what are your product do's and don'ts? Like a great example, when I worked with Yeti told me, I helped do a launch campaign for Yeti to move into Canada when they first launched in Canada. And Yeti told me, they said, if our little rubber straps that lock in the coolers are not fully shut, the image is completely unusable. And I'm like, well, that's good to know, because I probably would have gone out there and shot and like, oh yeah, that thing looks shut. You know, it's like, that is what those pre-discovery calls, those pre-campaign discovery calls are for. It's figuring out deliverables, figuring out formats,
Product
figuring out
guidelines.
placements. And it's also figuring out all of the product guidelines on like, how do we nail this? And again, that's a big reason why we are seeing clients trust us with more budgets, because we're asking those questions.
Yeah.
If a client has anything in their head where they're guessing like, oh, they're not asking maybe all the questions we wish they would ask. Like, I don't know if we can fully trust them with the full budget, because what if we have to hire another creative to reshoot this?
Yeah.
You know, where if you get all those questions out of the way, they've got way more trust in you, and we have way more trust in ourselves because we know the answers to those things that we're able to execute, and it's not going to have to be redone. So yeah, the pre-discovery call is a big thing in there. We do, we'll throw together mock mood boards. We will put together a full roll of like a full call out of like, here's all the models we think we should hire. We send models to brands to be approved. And then we will then on behalf of the brand go out and hire all the models, do all the liability stuff, all the contracts. Like we do all that for between the models and us. We do all of the shot lists. So like, here's all the shot lists. Here's all the scenes, as Christy said. So like, here's all the different scenes we're going to shoot on this shoot day in these different locations. Here's the different products we're going to shoot in different scenes, or the different moods we're going for in different scenes. And that stuff all gets like pre-approved, right? So we're doing a ton of pre-work prior to a campaign. And anytime we are listing an offer, so we're like anytime someone says, what's your quote on this? I'm not just saying, oh, it's going to be 15 grand. We're saying, oh yeah, here's the price, and here's everything that we are going to give you in order to make sure that this is an absolute home run. Oh, and by the way, we're going to turn it around in 72 hours. You know, so those are a couple things you can think about. Do you anything to add? I know I kind of went over a few.
No, I think that's it. I mean, it's straightforward, but it's like, it's just thinking of the things you naturally do and actually talking about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to jump into social. And touch on kind of how, you know, I feel like that the landscape on social media and content and the pairing of that both, you know, has changed a lot. You guys can probably speak to anything as it relates to like what you've done related to like content for social, but it's probably pretty similar to some of the packages and some of that. But specifically, Chloe, I just wanted to kind of flip it to you. What have you seen change over the last little bit in terms of, you know, like creators? I mean, Joey off the top said, you know, a huge thing is like making yourself versatile and like, you know, both being able to leverage your social platforms, all of that. What's changing? Like we're in 2025. What's the landscape look like? And anything that you'd recommend or insights that you want to share just related to pricing yourself
for sure.
On social.
Yeah, I've seen a lot change, and I can completely agree with that, wanting to stack different services. Before I used to get reached out to, because I do lots of influencer work, even still. I would often get reached out to, and it would be like, can you do this post? And it would be like, sure, I can. And that would be the end of it. And now I find it's very different. When I'm getting reached out to by brands, or what I'm seeing a lot happening right now is brands are not wanting just a post. They're wanting a post that can then create a relationship where you're going to be working with the brand in the future, like whether it's a post every couple months or something along those lines. But also they're asking, can I also use that post on our page?
Interesting.
You know, like lots of UGC content is happening right now. And lots of brands are wanting to take that content that you originally just be posting to your own page, and they're using it on their own platforms. But in addition to that, I'm seeing lots of there's just so many things. It's like what's changed so much. Before, I feel like lots of numbers used to be based around your following. So you get reached out to because, say, you had 20,000 followers on Instagram, and it would be like, okay, you have 20,000 followers. This is what our typical budget would be for somebody with $20,000.
Interesting, yeah.
But these days, lots of brands are realizing that the following count doesn't have that big of an impact.
Because of algorithms.
Yeah, because of algorithms and stuff. And so instead, they're looking at what type of community do you have? Are you really engaged with your audiences? Do you have a trusting relationship with you? Like, are they trusting your recommendations? Or like, if you, for example, if you had an audience that was primarily, you were a woman and your audience was primarily men, and you're getting reached out to by a girl's clothing brand, is your clothing going to sell? Probably not, you know? So, but if your following is primarily women who are turning to you for fashion advice, then that's the type of audience that would be buying those products that you're promoting. And so they're really diving into the insights of your audience is what I'm finding. They're wanting to learn who is your audience and how connected are you guys? And are you just connected on one platform, or have you built a community that extends elsewhere? Is it through TikTok and Instagram, or do you have a Substack where you're writing about, advice, where they're getting advice from you? And how many channels can we go through as a brand to connect with this audience of yours and feel deeper connected and to integrate it so it feels more organic?
Yeah.
And so pricing is varying a lot. It's not just like, this is our number, here you go, because you have this many followers. It's it can vary a ton depending on what your audience is, how you're promoting this brand, what channels you're doing that through. And
in a way, would you say that like the advice that Joe and Christy are giving on value-based pricing, like for like anything, almost like for just general packages, all that kind of stuff, almost applies equally in a way to what we're seeing in social now?
Absolutely. When you guys were talking, I 100% was making the connection. I was like, this is dead on. Everything you were saying basically applies to social, like, and also communicating that with the brand. Like when you're making a post, let them know you're not just making a post and it's going to like go out to whatever 20,000 followers or whatever you have. You're connecting with an audience of people who have this trusting relationship. And if you have numbers to support that too, like previous campaigns and stuff that you've run that have been successful, or you've been able to show how it's been, something that's been good in the past, if you can communicate that to the brand and show that, it's super helpful for you as a creator if you're trying to build this connection with a brand that's reaching out to you.
Yeah.
Last question, kind of related to that, is on a pricing standpoint, are you seeing as much reliance on analytics and like the data, like on how a post or content performs, or is it very much focused on that distribution and what you're creating?
Personally, I will never charge a brand based on how a post is going to perform.
Yeah.
I always
You can't
will
control
do
it.
it. Yeah, because you can't control it. It's impossible to guarantee how something's going to do.
Yeah.
And how your audience is even going to react to that, because you just never know. And so I will always have the price up front and say, this is what it's going to be, whether it hits the algorithm or not.
Yeah.
And you just have to say, this is my type of audience. I know that they're going to connect with these topics because of these things that I do or what we've done in the past, and go from there.
So your approach, similar to what Joe and Chris are talking about, is actually going, I will, based on what I've learned and all of like the knowledge I've built over the last X number of years building this audience, create something that in my mind will do the best possible job at reaching this group that you've said you care about, that is like a crossover with my brand and my audience.
Yeah, and that's part of it when you're talking with the brand and communicating with them. Like, you know your audience better than anybody else. Like, somebody looking in might not fully understand who you have as an audience, but if you've been in the social media sphere for 10 years and you've been building up this audience, you probably very intimately know who your followers are and what they like or what they don't like or what they resonate with and what topics. And so communicating that with the brand, with showing them previous examples if you have any, or previous posts that might be similar to something that they're looking for and how that performed. I feel like that's a really great way to introduce that to the brand and show them what you can offer.
No, that's really good. Anything to add, you guys?
Yeah, I mean, Chloe, it's great. And Chloe's Chloe, you're a great example of like a multidisciplinary creative, like we were talking about, right? Like, of course, people want to work with someone like you. You can write, you can do photo, you can do videos, you can do reels, you can do UGC. Perfect example of that. A couple of other things that I think we're seeing, and also when I used to do a lot more of the influencing stuff too, that I was doing back then and are still definitely, maybe even more prominent now, is like, okay, a brand reaches out to you and is like, hey, we want you to do a post on your page. I would always be like, awesome, like, why don't we talk about what else we can do? Because me going through all this effort to set up a shoot to do one post, like, why don't I create, like, I'll do the post, but how about I give you 10 images on top of that as well for your own organic socials? How about I also give you 2 reels instead of me just posting 1 reel? Why don't I give you 1 reel that has 4 different hook variations, and you guys can use them for your own paid advertising and test all of them, then scale the one that works the best, right?
Yeah.
So there's so
100%.
many upsells in the social world as well. We're even having a conversation the other day. Some of our really great friends own a big outdoors brand based in Australia, and their entire business model practically is run off paid ads, which is what most businesses, especially direct to consumer products, all their business models, because of the algorithms, they have to pay to get in front of people now, right?
Yeah.
And so we asked them this question a couple months ago when they were on our podcast, and I was chatting with them the other day about it. But they're just like, guys, like, it's so much more valuable to meet with a creative who goes, yes, I'll post on my own thing, or yes, I'll go out and shoot a campaign for you, but like, what could I be doing for your paid ad strategy? Because that is where so many brands are putting their budget.
Yeah.
So in the example of Chloe, like, Chloe's a great example. If Chloe posts and creates a bunch of stuff for her own feed, if she could give them a couple different like variations of that they could also then use in their paid ad strategy, and they could scale and test which one's going to work best, and then scale their budget behind that. Like that could double the price you charge.
Double the budget
easily, right?
And
to
I've
be
seen
like,
how
I'm
well
going to
it
meet with
works.
you. I'm going to meet with you and figure out a little bit about your paid ad strategy. What can I do to maximize that? Obviously, I know what I'm going to do for my own organic page, but what can I do to maximize your paid ad strategy stuff? And I'm going to give you some variation. So there's so many opportunities like that, which is great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can agree with that 100%. And that's something I always try to do too, is just be like, okay, I'm already going to be creating content for you.
Yeah.
What more can I do for you while I'm here? Because clearly you're already interested in what I do. I know that there's probably a way that we can add to that. And I think that's great advice.
That's good, guys. We've touched on this a lot. I think you guys everybody's provided a lot of really valuable examples on, a bunch of these different categories and areas. And I think just to come back, like, you had mentioned the line items and the stuff related to those budget numbers. And I think that's a really good point. I've noticed that when you're working with budgets that are, say, anywhere from, like you guys kind of said, like 5 to 15, 20, even like 30 maybe. You want to show value, but you maybe don't have to get quite as detailed on like where those buckets are going. But once projects or things start hitting like 50, 100, 200, like you get into like big commercial budgets, I think that's where then starting to go, okay, like let's throw you a spreadsheet, or here's a breakdown of like the budget, and take a look, like here's what it's going to cost. And I've seen that pricing transparency, like especially in my experience from early on when I was just like, here's a big number and here's what we're going to do, versus like, here's all the people that this takes. And the reality is it does take all of that. And we learned probably the hard way a lot of times that, like to do a lot of that stuff well, once you scale past, a certain dollar figure on projects, you need a good team, and you need to be bringing on other people, because you try and do that yourself. And it's not going to be at the level that it could be if you were, bringing people along. So I think just a couple things that we were going to land on. I think you guys added a lot on value add, like that kind of stuff. Any last words on that front, just on adding value to your offers, or you guys feel like we covered that?
I feel like something that we always encourage people to do, especially if they're like, I'm trying to grow my revenue, I'm trying to go like deeper relationships with my clients. Every time you solve a problem for a client, usually another problem pops up. So let's say you're like, I'm, moving out of my full-time job. I want to be doing this full-time, but I need retainer. I need like consistent monthly income. And maybe right now you're doing content creation, you're doing photo video campaigns for a client. And let's say you're on retainer for, a client, and you're doing, 15 images a month with like 4 reels or something like that. But the client is just botching posting them, right? Like just like botching using the client, utilizing the content.
Putting that lo-fi Instagram filter on your
content. Yeah, all of that kind of stuff. Instead of getting mad at the client and being like, send them an angry email about how they misuse your content or how it's not your fault, offer social media management, right? Like social media management is one of the like most underrated industries right now. We're seeing it growing 4 times faster than the global photography market,
which is crazy,
which is insane. So social media management is something to not sleep on. We've had a bunch of people go through our mastermind who built 6-figure businesses within like months, like not even months,
like less than 2-3 months. They've built 6-figure run rates, which is crazy,
because you create a very simplistic offer, and then everybody and their mother-in-law hates social media. I'm sure probably 80% of the people listening to this hate social media.
Managing
And if
their
they
own
could,
social.
if they could get rid of it, then they would feel like, oh, that's the best thing ever. So it's a very deep pain point with a simple solution. And so if you can stack those types of solutions with people, it can be really powerful. Whether you're doing both content creation and management, or you're doing just management, we see people doing like around anywhere from like, honestly, like $1,500 to $3,500 a month per client. And you stack a few of those clients and you're like, this is great. Like we're running at a great run rate. So I think that anytime you're looking at a client, always think about, well, what else could I solve for them, right? Like I'm doing this right now for them. What else can I do? And I think that creates longevity in your relationship. I think it also creates a lot more value for your client. And it just overall helps with the revenue.
It's good for your own revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wrap up by, this isn't necessarily on like value-based pricing, but if you don't do this, no matter what you price your stuff at, it's not going to work. John, you said it earlier, pricing transparency. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We cannot talk. There's not enough time in the day to talk about how bad it is to hide your pricing. You know, and a lot of creatives listening to this probably go, what do you mean hide my pricing? I don't hide my pricing. But if somebody asks you, hey, what is this going to cost? And your response is, well, you know, I'll have to send you an email later.
Let me get back to you.
Let me get back to you about it. Like, red flag. Like that looks like you're not confident in what you do. You don't work with anybody because you can't obviously just like rip off and rhyme off. Oh, hey, yeah, most projects land in a range between this and this. Like, if you ever have to say, oh, we should probably, if someone says, hey, what's your pricing? You say, oh, we should jump on a call. I talked about earlier in the podcast. I'm a huge proponent of getting people on calls so I can understand really the scale of what's going on, so I can give them a really accurate price. But if you say, oh, we should probably jump on a call, and they say, hey, well, we just want to know your price before we jump on a call. Well, then don't be like, oh, I can't until we get on a call. Be like, yeah, absolutely. Most clients that work with us are probably like anywhere between like $3,500 and $9,500 for a project. That's probably what I'm assuming you're going to be wanting. So why don't we jump on a call and figure out deliverables, timeline, turnaround, placements, formats. Let's talk about all that stuff, and then I can give you a more accurate price, right? Like, I love pricing transparency. Yeah. Oh, the range is so important. It doesn't have to be a tight range. It can be really big.
It could be like $800 and $10,000.
I said like 2 months ago when we were pricing in our new brand strategy deal that had photo and video included in as well. Like we're fully rebranding a company, web, UI, UX, photo, video, brand, logos, font, like everything. And they're like, so what does this cost? And I'm like, dude, this could cost you 20 grand. This could cost you 120 grand. And so in order for me to give you a really good answer, like very transparently, like we're just going to have a deeper conversation. I got to ask you a bunch of things. So I don't want to misquote you and give you a quote that is too low. And then we actually get into it. And then we need to alter the quote to match the scope. And then you're frustrated. And I also don't want to give you something that's too high. And then you run off running because you don't want to do it. And you miss out on us actually giving you a ton of value. So why don't we jump on a call and we'll figure it all out, you know? So pricing transparency is so important. When you respond with a good budget range of like, hey, yeah, typically between this price and this price, so why don't we chat more about it and we can figure out where you're going to land. You look confident, you look like you have clients, and it looks like you're actually trying to take care of people by figuring out what specifically they're going to need, and that's huge. So huge fan of pricing transparency, building those spreadsheets, John, as you said, as budgets get bigger, like you need to be able to answer. If they say to you, well, how does this break down? Like, let's say you do send over more of a flat rate without like a line down about thing. If they ask you, how does this break down? You better be able to answer and answer quick, right?
Like whether
it's so important.
Whether you're sharing it off the hop or you have it ready. Because I think you're right. Every client's different, right? So it's not really a one size fits all. And you get some people that are very numbers oriented and they actually like to be in the weeds and they want to see where kind of things are allocated. And then you're going to get others that are like, I hate spreadsheets. I hate numbers. Just tell me the value that I'm getting, and I want the result, kind of thing.
100%.
Yeah, I've got a thought. I know you brought this up earlier in the podcast of talking about the insecurity of giving larger numbers, or the insecurity of not even larger numbers, but just what you charge or feeling guilty.
A number. Yeah.
I'll say a number. anything above zero.
Anything over a zero.
I think the awkwardness of giving a price, the correct price to a client will never outweigh the pain of undercharging. Like, I think everybody in their career, this just happened to us a month ago. No matter how long you've been in the creative industry, you know when you undercharge and it hurts. Like it is one of those things where you're like dragging because you're just like, oh, I should have charged way more for this, or like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have just gotten stuck and felt insecure and delivered a lower number. Like, you know, when you're giving a price, if you're not excited about the number. And so if you're not excited about the number, you're not going to deliver in a great, valuable way. So charge what you need to charge. And the awkwardness of them saying no, it's like, get excited about rejection. Like, get excited about getting rejected, because at least you know you're pushing yourself. Because we've both been there in like delivering a number that feels scary, but there's nothing better than delivering a number that you're like, I feel confident about this, and I feel confident about the value of what it's going to give them. That's the most important thing. It's not confidence in myself. It's confidence in the value of what the product is going to do for them, and then actually getting paid that number.
Yeah.
But I know it's really hard, and as someone who's naturally just more like insecure, it helps to get around other people that are charging numbers that you want to be charging, and borrowing that confidence from other people.
Really good.
We talk all the time with friends in the creative industry. We're just like, I'm thinking about sending off this number. Like, what do you think? And even just getting affirmation from somebody being like, yeah, heck yeah, go for it. Like, that just helps so much. So when you can't find the confidence in yourself, go find someone and borrow it from somebody else. That helps. That at least helps me a ton.
Yeah. And last thing on that, like, pricing should always be your pricing should be living at the intersection of like a representation of the value you're giving, obviously, but also what are you confident to sell? Because there's a lot of creatives, we've all met them, who price themselves so dang low that they're not stoked to do it. And every time they get a campaign, every time they get a job, they regret it. And
they're not even happy about it.
I'm only getting paid $400. Well, what do? They wake up the next day and they don't get excited to go out and grow their business and go sell more, go try and give more value to clients, because every time they do a project, they're not stoked to do it.
Yeah.
The opposite's also true. We also know creatives who are like, I only charge 20 grand for campaigns, and they never work with anybody because they're not confident to sell it.
All. Yeah.
They say they want to charge that, but they actually in their heads don't understand how to rationalize that and explain the value. Yeah. So they also don't sell. So for anybody listening, your pricing should be a reflection. If you're looking for the sweet spot, it should be a reflection of the value you're giving, with also meeting at the intersection of like, what are you actually comfortable to sell? I'd way rather you undercharge a little bit, but be stoked to sell something and get really good at selling, and then slowly start to grow those prices, right?
Yeah.
Rather than having it be a number you'll never actually get out there and sell, because you yourself don't believe in the value. So it's very important to do that.
Any like tools, resources, stuff that's been really helpful for you in feeling more comfortable in charging what you're worth and kind of leaning into all this?
I mean, it's kind of tough because I don't know. I feel like for me personally, one thing that has helped me a lot is just having conversations with my friends who are in the same industry and just being open with them. Like, I have lots of friends who are really open about like what they'll charge or what they do for a project. And I feel like that's helped me to be like, okay, if somebody else I know is feeling confident doing this, they're getting jobs, they're charging this amount, I can do that too, you know, and just having those open conversations. I mean, that's probably been the biggest thing for me personally.
That's so good. And that echoes what you guys said. So
community.
Step one, if you don't have a like pricing buddy or a like person in the industry that's doing something similar, reach out to somebody. I mean, that's why we exist with Socality. You guys are really doing that well. And I think why we always seem to connect is because we got a shared vision for creatives coming together to support each other and growing what they do. Anything to add to that? You guys on like practical tools or resources?
I was going to plug Socality and say, like, you should spend more time around Socality. There's nothing better than going to a Socality event and being like, whoa, I'm around 150,
so
200 other photographers. I've never been around more than 3 or 4 photographers at one time. Like, that is so encouraging. So,
well, and the team at Socality is literally the kindest, nice. I feel like I was like, these people feel like family when we came and visited. You guys are just the absolute best. So you will feel welcomed if you get yourself out there and go to a Socality event, which is awesome.
Or jump into anything Socality's doing virtually. Like, it's huge. So big proponents of that. You said it, John, but the Creative Rise pricing calculator is going to give you a really good head start. It's not meant to be like, oh, it's the perfect price. It might be. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's not gospel, but it's a great start.
It's a great foundation. So there's a bunch of different sliders and stuff you play around with, and it's going to spit out actually a range based on like how comfortable you'd be to charge. Going back to that confidence piece we were talking about, but creativerise.com/pricing calculator for that is a great place to start there. And then John, you mentioned it, but like the YouTube video, I'm thinking you're referencing. We actually did a YouTube video on how we made $108,000 in the month of January in the first 4 days of February, and it's on our YouTube channel. It's also on our website, can take you there, creativerise.com/108. And that's going to take you to that page where you can see that YouTube video. But we break down value-based pricing, even probably more specifically than we did on this pod in that video.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for more support there,
Yeah.
totally easy, free resource for you there. And other than that, we've just got a bunch of other stuff going on at Creative Rise. If you need more support, there's ways to get more support and get our hands in your business and help you figure out some of this stuff. But the biggest one is going to be just exposing yourself to what people are doing. So whether it's watching our YouTube videos, using the pricing calculator, big one's going to be community, as Chloe and Christy said.
Yeah.
Like that is the biggest one.
Yeah.
That's the one that you will forever keep coming back to. Even after you've learned the tactical stuff and the theory, you still need community to hype you up and to make sure you can run, a pass through somebody.
hold you
and
accountable.
and they're stoked about it. So yeah.
That's great stuff, guys. Any last words as we wrap up?
No, thanks for having
Yeah,
us. This is
thanks for
always
having
fun.
us. If
We
you're
love the
creative
Socality community.
and you're wanting to build a business, you've got this, guys. There's never been a better time.
Never been a better
agree.
time.
We are seeing so many people, it's not even funny, quit their jobs, build businesses, build 6-figure businesses. Like it can happen. All you got to do is just get around the right people and just focus on it and actually give yourself some time to really go after it. There's never been a better time. 2025 is your year. So big fans of what you guys do at Socality. We love you guys and just cheering for everybody that's listening to the show. We love the community. So
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah,
Chloe,
thank you.
any last things you want everybody to do?
Oh, I don't know. Just believe in yourself, you guys. For everybody.
If you've been following along, as always, we appreciate any reviews on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. Give us a rating. Even if it's bad, we'll take it. I think engagement, like we want to hear from you. So
For sure. And we're going to drop some of those links that we were talking about in the description of this video or
stuff.
podcast. So if you want to learn more about those things that we were chatting about, make sure you check out the description.
And we'll probably have you guys on down the line, maybe later this year. We'll see how things
Would
go.
love
But we'd
to.
love
We'll
to
jump up and
bring
visit you
back.
guys.
we'll come
Yeah.
up.
Be in
do it
person.
We'll come up.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Well,
Thanks for
thanks
having
for that.
us.
Guys, we'll talk soon. Take care.
All right. Bye.